Now is the time.
Forever? Tangent. Old.
Halt.
Hashtag always MGM.
You are approaching the unloading area.
Calm down. AK haters.
But what if it could? Behold, the majesty of the
breeze.
Sistine ceiling.
For the kids.
A salute to all theme parks, but mostly Walt Disney World.
What a cute ending.
Aloha and
Don't Dillo it.
This is Theme Park Thursday live with Dillo's Diz. She is Jen.
Hello.
And I am Frank, and we are here live on our YouTube channel. Thanks for joining us along the way. I think we have all the levels of YouTube officially accessed now.
Yeah.
Do we know what we're doing? We don't know what we're doing.
No,
but I think you have.
we're happy to be here.
Available.
Yeah.
Here. We did drop our podcast earlier today. Half of that podcast we did record last evening over on our YouTube channel, which is here. It's here. And we recorded the first half of the podcast live on YouTube. And then the second half of the podcast we recorded over at DillosDizResort.com. That, of course, is our Patreon with memberships beginning as low as $1 per month. DillosDizResort.com. That $1 gets you into that world-renowned, world-famous, infamous one-channel Discord. And, you know, I'm just going to say they're privy to a little more information when they buy in.
Yeah, they get some extra stories from us.
They might get some plans about our meetup in September.
You know, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. We can't give it all away.
I mean, you know, we like to we plant the seeds and we watch it grow.
That's right.
But that is all happening in and around Friday the 13th in September. We'll be at Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party in September with that community core. But we will be around Walt Disney World in and around that date. Mm-hmm. But we have a guest here for this half hour. I mean, there's a little bit of a story involved because yesterday, Jen, I reached out to you and I said, "Hey, here's the plan for the podcast. We're gonna do these 3 topics. Yeah, we're gonna do the other half and talk about ticket prices over at the resort, and that'll be the podcast." And we actually planned it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then what happened is I read this tremendous article about halfway through the day that I then shared with Jen and was like, "Look at this article about MuppetVision 3D." And it was
twist my arm. What about MuppetVision 3D? Twist my arm. I don't know.
So it's not gonna let me share my screen right now, so I won't get to share it. But it's over on vulture.com, and the title of the article: MuppetVision 3D should be a national heritage site. I mean, basically, just speaking directly to us.
Yeah.
And speaking to our hearts and our souls.
Yes.
And so at 7 p.m. last night, there we go. You got it, Jen. There it is. And last night at 7 p.m., I go to Twitter DM because we're not great planners anyway. So I was ready to throw the plan out the window.
Yeah.
And I reached out to the writer of this article, Rebecca Alter, and I was like, "Hey, Rebecca, you want to just jump on the podcast?" And she was like, "Great," but of course I said Theme Park Thursday in the podcast, in the message,
because again, we're not good planners, so we don't communicate properly.
and then when I apologized this morning, I was like, I type as fast as I talk. So long story short is, I was like, you want to come on tonight and talk about it here on Theme Park Thursday Live, the official Theme Park Thursday day.
Yes.
Here in the evening.
Yeah.
So without further ado, here she is. It's Rebecca Alter. Rebecca, hello.
Hello. Hi.
Thanks for being. Oh, love it. Love it. Perfect.
I barely ever have an occasion to wear this. So,
well, no better one than today. Yes, I love it.
Rebecca, nice to meet you officially here in person.
Yes.
Nice to meet you too. Reports of your fast talking were not exaggerated. I was like, oh, if this guy doesn't talk like an auctioneer, I'm going to be so disappointed.
Here he is.
Here I am.
No, it's so nice to meet you both. It was so nice of you guys to invite me. That's so sweet.
No, and your article got a lot of response over. We do visit the X Twitter often enough now, still, even amidst the chaos. And your article is getting a lot of response. Scott Gustin retweeted, requoted you, whatever we're calling it on the X Twitter these days. And I think there's so much nostalgia that we can get into, but really, I guess we should start with. What about MuppetVision 3D had inspired you in such a way to write the article?
Yeah.
I think someone in either a quote, tweet, or a comment on the article put it exactly the way I felt, which is like, based on Disney's track record, every time they go to MuppetVision, they have this bittersweet feeling that it might be the last time. And that totally described the way that I feel towards it. And I haven't been in a couple years, but because I don't think a day at Hollywood Studios is currently worth what it costs. And I just think it's like this very important, sweet, special attraction that just has a vibe to it. Obviously, a history to it that I get at in the article, but also more than that, there is a feeling that's very special that reminds me of, like, in the purest sense, that like Disney parks feeling at its best.
Yes.
Right.
That is still so well preserved there. And I worry that any day they'll decide that it's dated, or that they're going in a new direction with the Muppets, or they want to expand Galaxy's Edge. And there's any number of reasons. Like, once they closed down that gift shop, I was like, oh, it's over. But then again, Pizza Rizzo makes me think that they're staying invested in the space.
Yeah, I feel like they plant enough seeds.
Yeah. And we feel exactly how you feel. So and all the things. And I was so mad at when that gift shop. I'm like, why is this not back yet? Why is it still not here? I want to walk through it. And over time, you felt like more of the Muppets disappearing in that gift shop. Like it was down to like a rack. And I'm like, okay, no, this is not okay. We're gonna need to revamp this more Muppety and not less.
Yeah, they also took away the hot air balloon, right?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. So like, who knows? Yeah.
And they claim the sight line for Galaxy's Edge on that one, and that's all fine. And I agree that I think in some ways the best thing about the Star Wars community becoming more and more divisive over the years has been it's given them pause to expand Galaxy's Edge right away. Where they're like, you know what? Well, everyone's angry at Star Wars. Let's not do anything right now. Because Jen and I have gone back and forth on the debate of could we accept moving MuppetVision to like the opposite side of the park? They just like rebuild it and put it all in there. And usually we're like, no, it's going to be where it is.
It has to stay exactly where it is.
Yeah. But I feel like we've done this podcast for 6 years, and I feel like it's gone through 2 theater seat renovations, which each one surprised me. So when little things like that happen, similarly, I'm like, okay, it's still here, it's still happening. There's no imminent doom happening today.
Yeah.
There's also like the Muppets will always be this goodwill product that people are. I don't want to say product there because the Muppets are people, but it's this property that they have that just is so universally treated with like goodwill.
Yeah.
Like I think probably no one would pull higher on earth than like Kermit. Like who doesn't love the Muppets? So hopefully they can treat it as this sort of like old standard standby thing, but I don't trust them to. And that's why I think we need to start like a letter writing campaign or something.
Yeah.
No, and we'll totally let's visit that in a little bit. I want to know the first time that you experienced MuppetVision 3D. How old were you? What were the circumstances? What do you remember? All that like first true connection with the attraction.
I mean, I probably went when I was like 4 and don't remember it. So, and it's so hard to like parse apart like the occasional trips when I was really young.
Mhm.
So I'm trying to think of when was I first like a conscious being. I don't know. Maybe I can't even tell if it's like 7 or like 9. I need to ask my parents because there were like years that they went to the parks a lot when I was like a baby, and then not for a while, and then we started going again like as a family like every other year or something when I was in like middle school. But between that, it was like a few separate times. So maybe it feels like 7. I feel like that's very age 7. And I just remember loving it so much and finding it very funny. And something that I talk about with this Country Bears revamp is also like they make decisions that they're like, oh, well, this isn't relevant to kids today. Kids don't know about these characters or they don't get the humor. So why not do a thing that kids will enjoy? But I think there's a type of kid whose imagination so gets sparked by theme parks in like a very special way. And part of that is the sense of, oh, this has been here for a long time. And it's this whole world that I don't know about. Of course, I knew about the Muppets, but that was probably my first introduction to a lot of characters I didn't know about.
Yeah.
But I definitely by then had, Muppet Christmas Carol and Treasure Island. And I was acquainted.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just have very faint memories. My first time, definitely of Waldo, definitely of Rizzo in the pre-show.
Yeah,
that's like core memories for sure.
Yeah, speaking of the pre-show, our friend Adam really wanted us to ask you what your favorite gag is during the pre-show.
Oh my god. That's also like so hard to do recall like that. I like when they bring in like the singers and the third one's like, the union sent me. And then I also like Gonzo tap dancing to Tea for Two. Like both of those are extremely, one thing that I love about the Muppets and the Muppet Show is they did have a real fixation on like random like 1920s vaudeville and 30 like just weird old like standards and things,
right?
That there's no reason why those would have been on TV and spoofed and stuff like in the 70s and 80s otherwise. So I like that stuff is preserved.
Yeah, that pre-show, to Adam's point, which I knew, I had a feeling he'd come out of the woodwork and ask us about, that pre-show. If you get the whole, you get there right at the beginning of it, in and of itself is like almost its own attraction that is, just if not better than a lot of other attractions in the park. It's totally by the silvery moon, not the sun, but the moon. It's in my head every time I'm there for the rest of the day.
It's also it's the rare pre-show where it's like you're disappointed if you get in and they're like, oh, we're loading now. Like, oh no, I kind of wanted to
just hang out here. It's like a nice little ease into it. And I don't know that there's many places left in the parks. We talk a lot about pockets of the parks where you can kind of just sit and chill and not a lot's going on and you can kind of take it in. And I feel like that pre-show area is kind of like its own pocket, even though you're being entertained. Like it's so nice when you first get in there before anyone else and you can kind of just hang out for a good 10 minutes and take it all in. But
Troy is in our chat from Disney Assembled and Disney Assembled podcast, and he talks about the props that are all around the pre-show area with a net full of Jello, which is everything in that room is a gag. Everything as you walk into that room is a gag. The movie posters, if the queue happens to extend down the side of the building, you get the gags. I mean, it's so detailed. And in some ways not meant for the smart phone universe. That if you walk too fast or if you're in the screen, you miss like the slightest thing.
Yeah, for sure. So you mentioned you had been going to the parks pretty often by this point. Are you from Florida or are you just a Disney family? You just grew up with it?
I'm from Toronto, but my grandma lived in Florida. So we would go down. She's in South Florida, but we would, when we'd visit her, sometimes do Disney. And my mom has she went I think 1971. Like, I think the first year it was open, her family went, and so it's very special to her.
Yeah, that's cool. And then since seeing MuppetVision 3D, and you had kind of been acquainted at that point with the Muppets, did you then kind of go all in on Muppets? Where do you stand with your love for the Muppets overall?
Oh, I love the Muppets.
Yeah.
I've got like a little Muppet baby Fonzie.
Yes.
Right here or Fonzie. Would be
I'm
a
going
cute
with it
Muppet
too. I'm
that-
like, yeah.
yeah. Fonz. I love Muppets. I think, growing up, I liked things that had that sort of sense of humor for sure.
Yeah.
Looney Tunes as well.
Yeah.
And also before, when you're a preschooler, like my first memories are of like a Sesame Street cassette tape we had in the car that still played cassettes.
Yeah.
So you're like sort of conditioned and predisposed to like Muppets in the years before you even maybe encounter them. And that was definitely one of my I would have I feel like pop culture hyperfixations, and that's why that's my job now. I'm sure that's why you guys have this type of podcast now. It's like, if you really fall in love with that stuff, then and I love like not just Jim Henson, but I think Frank Oz has had such an interesting career. Piggy's an icon.
Yeah.
And definitely deciding like developing a sense of humor as a kid and being like, oh, like Beaker is my sense of humor.
Yeah.
You can point to one and be like, that's mine.
Yeah. That's so true, because the Fonz, he's kind of like the dad joke guy, and so there's somebody for everybody in the Muppets.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm old enough to go, the Muppet Show debuted when I was still a kid. So I go from early Sesame Street with Kermit into the Muppet Show, into the movies being released into the theater, into Muppet Babies when Jen was young, because we're 7.5 years apart, and that's fine. I'm not much older. But, the universality, and I think another reason why the attraction still goes on is because the jokes, the gags, the bits, they're all so timeless, and why, and you mentioned it in your article that Disney does try to, bring it back in some capacity. They float the Dr. Teeth and the band series. They tried during the pandemic, the Zoom meeting kind of Muppets variety, that hit and miss, but and even the ABC series 10 years ago, where it didn't get enough time to grow, really. It started growing into itself, and then they pulled the plug. It's what it requires the audience to kind of be onboarded, these days, and that takes time. And so when I see them throw like the next thing out, I'm like, you're not giving this enough time. You're not going to give it enough time. And that's really where I struggle with how the attraction will live, because the things that they put on Disney Plus or anything else just sits there. So I'm curious in terms of how the movies and the franchise in general has expanded over the years. What has caught your attention, say on Disney Plus or on cable, or however you're plugged in or unplugged these days?
I've been I know it's not, this part of Muppets isn't, or Jim Henson isn't Disney owned, but I've been interested in the Fraggle Rock revival. I would like to check that out. In terms of the Muppets themselves, what has been recent? I didn't catch up with the Dr. Teeth show. I know I need to do that. I mean, I guess it's actually crazy that now these were over a decade ago, but the Muppet theatrical movies they put out were, that first one was awesome. Like that won an Oscar.
The Jason Segel one.
And like, even stuff like Constantine has stayed relevant, like as a meme even. So these aren't going away, and these aren't irrelevant.
No, and that's a great point. I mean, that's like as close as they've gotten, really. Like, Jason Segel really got in and made money. And then it seemed like, and creative differences or whatever it was that happened behind the scenes. And maybe someday we'll all learn more. But agreed.
The thing that makes Muppets very special and that makes the best Disney things special in the parks or movies or whatever, or when they feel like they're coming from like a particular artist or a particular group of artists with a point of view. And I think like, the best when you could point to be like, oh, that's Mary Blair and that's her thing, or you point to one of the movies and you're like, this was Howard Ashman's whole deal, and you can see like his whole perspective in the product. Like I think that's what's special about the Muppets, and I don't think that has to die with the original creative team, aging and passing away and stuff. Like I was reading an article today. It's the 25th anniversary of SpongeBob, and apparently the past like 5 years or something of SpongeBob have been it's in this new creative golden age, because all of these young animators have joined who grew up on it, and rather than treating it with reverence, they're getting really weird with it. Like SpongeBob, which is already a weird show, is apparently the weirdest it's ever been, and really, really good.
Yeah.
And that gives me hope that like if they were able to entrust it with people who get it and let them be creative and maybe let them be a little risky or a little naughty with them.
Yeah.
I have to believe that the Muppets are going to be okay in the end.
Yeah, that's so true. That's a good point too. Like my son, he's 10, but he will write fan fiction from time to time about books he likes or whatever it is. And I can, like, as you're talking about SpongeBob, I'm like, I mean, yeah, if you grew up on it and then you're thinking about your own stories and your own ways to like create in this world, that's like amazing to then like catapult into your the rest of your life. And that would be awesome to see with the Muppets as well. And I kind of feel like that's what Jason Segel did, right? I mean, he was a huge fan and was like, I need to be a part of this world and I want to bring it back and make it something a little bit different and add to it. And I feel like we need more of that. Yeah.
I want to talk about the headline, really, which is about making the building and the attraction a National Heritage Site. I appreciate the shout out to Rye Playland, which Jen and I went a bunch as kids.
Cool.
I just went back and visited last year for the first time, and I was like, oh, the Dragon Coaster and the Whip and the Mill, they're all national landmark. They're all certified that way. I was like, that is so cool. And so to see you reference it in the article, I'm like, yay, other people know this. And it gets mentioned. It doesn't seem to come up too often when talking about the Disney parks or any, in general. And you make a great point about how Carousel of Progress is treated ish. Those seats just got remodeled, so everyone's excited. and the railroad, and there's it's kind of like, we know these are Walt's favorites. There's that, but also we're just gonna leave it be for a really long time and see what happens. I mean, can Disney move in this direction, or is it because we're supposed to change and it's supposed to evolve and it's supposed to grow, and that other side of the argument that we always hear? What can we do? Is my question. What can be done?
I know, because you don't want to sound like a grouch or a Luddite or someone who doesn't want to let the next generation have any fun or whatever. That's like the trap you fall into when you're making this case. But it's hard because, look what they've done to Figment. Look what they've done to Horizons. When something's a modern classic, it's harder to get. Also, I've never experienced original Figment and Horizons, so this is all just from being very online.
Yes.
I could only imagine.
I think the greatest.
So good.
But I think there's a way. I think there's a way to do both. I haven't ridden Bayou Adventure yet, but that seems like an example of a way that you can. I mean, that's much more drastic than what I would ever want to happen to the Muppets. But that's I would, based on, again, watching from afar so far, seems like decently positive. And Splash Mountain was definitely hands down my favorite ride besides. Well, Pirates West Coast, Splash Mountain, East Coast.
Yeah.
My favorite ride. the last time I wrote it, I like cried because I knew it was going to be the last time, even though I knew that it was for a lot of reasons with that, that they had to change it, and that's ultimately good. I also love the Princess and the Frog music, so I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to I don't know. There's some that they try, like, you know, people care a lot about this. I don't know how much of a gimmick or how, you know, sticking to Xentatio's original plan, this Hatbox Ghost is, you know, they make some, or Jungle Cruise, they've made way less racist. So there's places where this is welcome. But I think, I don't know, it's been 30 years and it holds up. And a lot of people responding to the article were saying, oh, I took my kids and they were laughing the whole time, totally holds up. And I understand that that's probably a weird sample size of people, because those are people who are on like Disney Twitter and are priming their kids probably from birth to be like, you know, holding up a Kermit doll and it's the first time they see it.
You will love him. Yeah.
You know, it's a rhetorical sort of maybe extreme argument to make the National Historic Site thing. But then I stopped and I was looking into all these cases where that's been made. Like, I live in Brooklyn. I like to ride the Cyclone if ever I'm down there, and you know, these things have cultural value. It can't just be like opera houses that are getting this type of designation. We need to pay attention. We lose a lot of this. I think about, like, you know, the animatronics getting pulled out of all the Chuck E. Cheeses. You know, it's harder to make a case to make like the original, you know, Showtime pizza, whatever, a National Historic Site. But also, you know, it's sad when we lose these things that were really like tactile and physical in our world, because that's, you can't preserve that in the same way. And Muppets is this great, as you said, it's this pocket, like it's there's an aura to the whole experience. So I say we slap like a thing on it.
Oh god, especially walking by it at night and you're just like, don't ever go away. It's so pretty.
I think they have to know that they'd be like true like villains in a Muppet movie if they were to try to mess with it. Like, that is so evil, live action human in a Muppet filled movie behavior.
It's I know it is such a hard thing, and I'm with you, because Disney makes some decisions sometimes and I'm like, oh, do we really want to do that? You're really gonna do that? You have this other choice over here that might be, no, we're gonna do that. Okay, we're gonna get rid of something that everybody loves and replace it when you just have empty buildings anyway. So I do worry how close it is to Galaxy's Edge, especially being between Galaxy's Edge and Star Tours. And I know it's like, I know it's all possible, but like, I don't want it to ever go away from that spot. Like, it has to remain there. And it has also just like connected generations, I think. I mean, the fact that the Muppet Show was on so long ago and we're in 2024, and I mean, I think taking my kids to MuppetVision for the first time and seeing their reaction, I had like this, whew, this is affecting me emotionally more than I expected it to, because I have such big memories of MuppetVision when I was a kid, you know. And I think, not that I don't have memories of the other rides, but I think that one was something we could all sit and get an air conditioning break and laugh at together, and it was something that connects us all, as opposed to, oh, that's more for the kids, oh, that's more for the adults. It's for everybody, and it's, I would hate to ever see anything happen to it. I don't know.
But we know we feel the inevitability.
No, I can't.
No, I want to believe.
Yes.
Well, when are you? I know you don't want to pay for the day at Hollywood Studios, but do you have a trip to Florida planned in the future? When are you heading back to the parks? It doesn't have to be the one in Florida. It can be somewhere else. What do you got on the agenda?
I will probably go. I go to LA every November for work because we do Vulture Fest out there, and I like to sort of extend my stay and go to Disney or Universal.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So possibly that, and then I really, really, really am trying to find a way. Currently, I'm like this week. I'm positioning myself as like, I'm giving theme parks coverage. Please get me into Epic Universe somehow, please.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I've been pitching it hard at work. I've been like basically doing PowerPoints of like, here are the reasons why we need to. Because every time we publish theme park stuff, it does so well because people who care about them are so, like there's so much engagement. They share and they comment and the articles do really well.
Yeah.
And we don't have a ton of it, but there's so many people on staff who are or a few of us, but we're very, very loud. We're passionate about this stuff. And yeah, every time we do any theme park writing or reporting, it does pretty well. So I'm trying to pivot my job somehow into being as much of just a theme park blogger as possible, even though that's technically not my job title at all.
Right, because in addition to the MuppetVision article, you had a Disneyland anniversary one up recently, right? Or
yeah, so that was going to be, I don't know, do you guys do plugs?
We could. Well, let's keep talking, and then you can plug everything else. Come back
so that's tied to a bigger project.
Oh,
so I'm putting a pin in that.
That's very cool.
I do want to focus on the pop culture in your life because we like the pop culture.
Yeah.
And just even seeing your recent articles, is Interview with a Vampire on AMC something I need to watch? Because I like Eric Bogosian. I directed Suburbia many years ago. So, I feel like, oh, Eric Bogosian's on that? Maybe I will watch. So I wanted to get a little insight into your thoughts.
I'm so obsessed with it. I've never become so like single-mindedly hyper-fixated on something in the 5 years I've worked at Vulture as I have on that show. I think it's fabulous. And it's coming to Netflix on August 19th. So I think a whole lot more people are going to start watching it. It's very spicy. It's very racy. But it's, if you like the movie, and Eric Bogosian is awesome. And the showrunner, I spoke with the showrunner, and listening to him talk, I was like, oh, you sound just like Eric's character in this show. Like he's really channeling, there's some sort of symbiosis going on there, and he really gets Eric's voice himself as a playwright and stuff. And the staff is all playwrights. So it's very, the language is flowery and over the top and fabulous.
No, I saw him do, I don't know if he was doing a one-man show or just a talk back out on the East End of Long Island 20 years ago, probably right before I directed Suburbia, because we were doing it at Stony Brook University. And, just to listen to him, and like, I read his plays, I read talk radio. I was into it, but then hearing him talk and then going back to it is really something. So that's cool to hear how that's all intertwined with playwrights. So now I'm going to, when it comes to Netflix, now I'll be binging it. Thank you.
What other shows do you recommend at this time? Because I feel like summers can kind of be a little...
nominations just came out, so it's relevant.
Oh, yeah, true.
Yeah.
Well, I won't talk about all the things I don't like that were nominated. I like What We Do in the Shadows, which I feel like... Okay, so I'm only naming vampire shows now. But What We Do in the Shadows, I feel like has a lot of overlap with people who are also into... Like, I think people who are into theme parks in this particular type of way appreciate the humor and the production design, everything going on in that. And the show I've been honestly most passionate about this year is there's an Adult Swim show that just finished its second season called Smiling Friends. That is extremely, it's an Adult Swim show. It's animated. It's frantic and frenetic and has a weird amount of jump scares and is animated, and it's sort of like, disgusting and inappropriate and also very lovely. I find that a lot of very different types of people are all standing it really hard, which is interesting. It's like uniting people, and I think it's the most buzzy, like a new Adult Swim original has been in a really long time.
Yeah.
It has a very Muppety energy to it. But definitely R-rated. I don't know if you guys ever watched or with your kids or anything, the Cartoon Network show Apple and Onion.
No.
So this was on again. It was on and it was sort of dropped. It lasted for 3 seasons. It's on Max. That's like a kids show, but I find it hilarious and delightful and awesome. And during the pandemic, I'd make my roommate sit down and watch so many episodes with me. And this sort of feels like the R-rated extension of that vibe.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Yeah. Nice.
I don't know. What are you guys watching?
What are we watching? Jen is rewatching This Is Us because she's stuck at our parents' house.
Yeah, so my house is undergoing renovation. So we're staying with my parents for the summer, and my mom never watched This Is Us. And I'm like, you're going to watch it now. So here we go. And so I'm watching it over, which is an interesting new perspective I'm getting on it. But I always feel like sometimes the summer has this lull, and usually because I'm unplugged at home and now I'm here where they have everything. But I sometimes feel like on the streaming services, there's usually one show into another that kind of works out that way. And I just feel like there's been a little bit of a lull lately, and I'm not sure where to go next.
Yeah, we just finished up because we hadn't watched any of them. So we had just done Only Murders in the Building. So we did all 3 seasons.
Yeah.
And so that I was like, I can't believe I didn't watch the show all this time. But I also did that with Ted Lasso a little bit, where I didn't watch in the beginning and then immediately caught up because I got
Yeah, then you have so much to look forward to.
Yeah.
Oh, John Mulaney's talk show that was on Netflix for 6 episodes was so good. That's actually my favorite TV of the year.
I have to go check that out.
Oh, I have to watch that.
I did read good things about that, and I'm such a talk show junkie. Here we are. We're both talk show junkies.
Yeah.
Really. So that is. But I feel like we're not going into another thing. We keep debating shows right now. We're like The Bear, The Crown, what the shows we hadn't started yet, but we know everyone watches. My wife just did. Well, I guess she's still doing it. Is Bridgerton? She just did all the Bridgertons.
Nice.
And I watched on the periphery. And
that's what all guys say. They're like, I wasn't paying attention.
Yeah.
Well, with the Olympics coming up, it kind of like, we gotta take a break. The Olympics are coming up. So.
Yeah. I keep telling Frank for years that he has to watch Schitt's Creek because that's just an automatic rewatch for me, and it's just constant, just being replayed when I'm home typically. But he has to give it another shot. He gave it 1 episode a few years ago. It's got to get into it again.
Went up the first episode twice, and I was so like,
oh yeah, it takes a bit. I mean, any show. It's what you were saying about Muppets.
Yeah.
You got to give it a few episodes. Although I'll also say a much less watched show than Schitt's Creek that has a similar sort of nice feel to it is Somebody Somewhere on HBO.
Okay.
Truly not a soul is watching it, and it's really, really lovely. And it's also very much set in a small town and about community and all this stuff. Yeah. It's really funny and really nice.
Speaking of HBO, we did is it on Max or HBO? I don't even know what it's on anymore. But Hacks is something we watched a few 3 or 4 episodes on. So we're midway through that. But 4th of July holidays slowed that down. And I feel like there's one more. There's one more thing we were in the middle of, and I don't know where it's at. But the John Mulaney thing, that's a good.
Yeah.
I have to check that out
for sure. Yeah.
Well, this I mean, it's good to connect with you here because we do like talking about the pop culture, and since you're writing more about the theme parks, that means we can interact more, and I get excited about that.
All I ever want is an outlet to talk about. I'm sad that I missed yesterday's episode that was about resort prices. I want to hear your thoughts.
We will have you back, and we can talk about all the things.
Oh yeah, we like talking. We do have this offshoot here, which we'll
welcome everybody to Dillo's Pop.
We have a Dillo's Pop graphic. We haven't done a Dillo's Pop episode in a while, but
I know.
There you go. I mean, I feel like we retroactively almost did one.
Exactly.
Okay, so I'm going to take this moment in the conversation to say that Vulture, in partnership with Vox, who is our parent company, is doing a mini-series podcast on their business podcast, Land of the Giants. It's the 10th season. Each season focuses on a different company. This season, it's focusing on Disney. Nice. It's called Land of the Giants, The Disney Dilemma. And I host the second episode, which came out yesterday, which is like about the parks. So
Awesome.
Cool.
that's why I was
Very
writing about the parks.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Awesome. Very cool.
And you're literally one borough over from me here, so
That's
Oh,
right.
wow.
Yeah.
yeah, we'll just I don't know
Yeah.
if it's the NW or the F situation.
High
I
five.
don't know. We'll do one of those. But awesome, great to meet you, Rebecca.
Yes.
And we'll wrap things up here on our YouTube channel. But thanks to those in the chat and chiming in and watching along the way, even if you're watching later. Thank you very much. Rebecca, you got social media that you want people to follow you on and things like that too? Or,
Yeah, I'm at Ralter on Twitter, and I'll be on Twitter until the day it dies, or until the day I die, whichever comes first. I have a feeling Twitter is going to go first.
Well,
Yes.
awesome. Thanks for hanging out with us, and thanks for everyone watching here tonight. Until next time, that's Rebecca. She's Jen. I'm Frank. Bye-bye.
Kisses. The Dillo's Diz podcast is hosted by Frank Cardillo and Jen Cardillo Snyder. Music produced by Matt Harvey. Logos and video production courtesy of Snidillo Studios. Dillo's Diz Resort is our Patreon with tiers starting as low as $1 per month. You can visit dillosdizresort.com to learn more. Follow us on TikTok, Instagram, X Twitter, and Facebook at Dillo's Diz. Check us out on YouTube by visiting youtube.com/DillosDiz. Don't forget to like and subscribe while you're there. We also have merch available on TeePublic and Etsy. For all this and more, visit our one-stop shop, dillosdiz.com. Dillo's Diz Podcast 2024.